Mail and Guardian described him as the man who conducted his constitutional duty with relentless efficiency and was unafraid to speak bad news to power. To speak it again a year later, if necessary. Once his office was lauded for being tough on municipalities, particularly on the use of consultants and poor financial controls. Now he oversees chartered accountants. Is that out of the frying pan and into the fire, one wonders? This is Tonight. I'm Bruce Whitfield, and tonight we speak to the former Auditor General, current South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, or SAICA Chief Executive, Terence Nombembe. You don't look as scary as you once did. Bulelani Ngcuka, when he did his BE deal with Nedbank, once said to me, "You guys used to be scared of me when I used to have the power of the scorpions behind me. You don't get scared of me anymore." Have people changed their attitude towards you now that you're no longer the Auditor General?
People were never scared of the Auditor General. I think they respected the views, the thoughts, and the guidance that that office sought to direct and give to the country. But as you said, I'm no longer there now.
How long were you there? 8 years as head of as Auditor General.
As Auditor General, I was there for 7 years. But prior to that, I was the Chief Executive and the Deputy Auditor General for another 6 years. So altogether, 13 and a half years.
Do you miss it?
It's an area and a portfolio and an office I've basically grown into as an adult. When I left it intact, and therefore I will always remember it, but I won't miss it.
You always remember it, but you won't miss it. Why won't you miss it? I mean, here you were, the gatekeeper of South Africa's financial well-being. It's an extremely influential and powerful position. Besides to it?
Yeah. The reason I won't miss it is because the succession has been superb and has been effective in my view, and therefore I'm happy that the office will continue along the path that it was destined to pursue.
Wasn't it as effective as you would have liked it to be? I kind of felt that you were a little bit like Archbishop Desmond Tutu, standing on the sidelines, blowing your whistle, showing a red card, and the game sort of continued, despite the fact that you had these protestations.
It is a necessary task. It raises conscience. It raises awareness. And over time, it's not an overnight task. It's a long-term, sustainable responsibility. We just need to be consistent in the manner in which those issues are being raised.
Are municipalities in better, they're not in better shape, but are they in better financial management shape now than they were 10 years ago? Because municipalities were doing fine. We had the financial management went through a very severe dip. You've been regularly critical of particularly municipalities, local authorities, in terms of their adherence to accounting principles.
They were actually variable. I mean, there are those that were doing well, those that listened. There are those that were doing not so well, those that could do better and had the potential but did not respond to obvious things. But there are those that had deep and serious resource challenges and leadership challenges. So they had those varying degrees of vulnerability.
Why do voters not treat municipalities more seriously? These are the local authorities that are meant to provide services to them. We've seen this huge escalation in service delivery, protests, and it all comes down to ultimately financial controls and management. A budget is given. If the budget is properly spent and properly apportioned, many of the services that people complain are not delivered would be delivered. Are voters complacent? Or
I think voters are giving municipalities sufficient attention. The fact that they are closest to the doors of municipalities is a privilege. But the only reality is that perhaps the level of awareness of how voters could have the influence can have a more direct responsibility to guide and demand accountability is what perhaps may not have been as mature as we may have expected in South Africa. And that education, I believe, still needs to be done.
I think most South Africans probably ignore the economics of running the country. Most South Africans probably ignore economic policy. Most South Africans probably couldn't care whether or not their accounts at the end of the month balance. All they want to do is make sure there's running water and that there's a tarred road outside the house. And I think that's maybe half the problem that you've faced, is that people haven't regarded the office of the Auditor General as seriously as they understood the importance of the accounts.
Remember, Bruce, the audit office comes at the tail end of the activity. One of the reasons I'm at SAICA, I suppose, is I chose to go to SAICA, is for me to also be part of the campaign, the task to also assist on the front end, because this is where when we produce people that can do the job and we can make them available for government at varying levels of skills. We don't necessarily need to produce chartered accountants, although chartered accountants have got a significant role to play, to train even those that are needed to do the basic jobs. That's the kind of complementary responsibility that the auditors have got to be getting from professionals like us at SAICA.
I mean, you are the Institute of Chartered Accountants. It's highfalutin, it's smart, shiny shoes. However, as SAICA, do you see yourself as responsible for providing the skills and the talent, even at a lower level, into these municipalities? How are you going to deliver those skills?
Why did I wear a grey suit today?
You're an accountant. Ultimately, it's your uniform. Either that or you work at APSA part-time, I don't know. But give me a sense of what you see as SAICA's responsibility.
Indeed. You know, as chartered accountants, we are, in fact, having a privileged position to establish the fundamentals and the baseline for good governance, fundamentals for good accountability, good reporting, through the standards and regulations that we oversee, through the skills that we produce. And that is why...
Do you produce the skills? I thought schools and universities produce the skills. What does SAICA produce skills?
Indeed, those universities as our stakeholders, as accredited providers of the skills that will eventually become chartered accountants. And if you look at the entire value chain, from school right through to university, right through to traineeship, and right through to someone who is qualified, all those people belong to an important pipeline and value chain that as SAICA we take care of, we nurture, so that we can make sure that the country has got sufficient enough resources to bring about the disciplines that we've spoken about in our earlier discussion.
If you look at the JSE, how many black financial directors are there in the top 100 of the JSE? I can't think of any. Offhand. I mean, financial directors generally aren't the attention seekers, but the reality is South Africa, for its demographics, has got a massive crisis, I suppose, of a lack of black chartered accountants. We're 20 years into democracy. Is that a failing of SAICA?
It is something that is changing. If you look 20 years ago, the number would have been less than 1%, perhaps just touching 1% of the black accountants that there was of the population. If you look at today, subject to correction, that number is touching 20% now, you know. And it is due to the investment that was made deliberately by the profession to invest in the production of accountants. It's something that the private sector government still needs to continue to do, because SAICA has provided a platform through the Tutuka Bursary Fund to train in a systematic fashion the production of those accountants. And I'm aware that many institutions, many organizations are still not contributing towards that bursary fund. It is something that really can increase that 20% ratios to something like 50% and even more in the next 2 decades.
What is holding back the transformation of the accounting profession, in your view?
I think we've captured now the fundamentals. All we need to do now is to scale up and speed up the process. The system is there. The system is working.
But is the public schooling system producing talented matriculants, or are they still coming through the private schooling system? Are we seeing this sort of divide happening at the age of 12, when parents who can afford to send their kids to posh schools give them a far better chance, and you've got more black chartered accountants perhaps emerging from that stream rather than from the public sector? That's my layman's impression of it. What's your professional view on it?
I don't think it's that scenario is a limitation, because we through the Tutuka Bursary Fund, for instance, are picking up very good students that are coming from those vulnerable situations, and they're making a remarkable success of the transformation of the profession.
But it's that much harder to come through the public schooling system. Are on the back foot until somebody like yourself spots a bright youngster and goes, you're exceptional, come through the ranks. There's sort of no natural progression. We don't have a free flow of skills and talent. It's hard work to go and find the skills and talent.
It is hard work, but it's the hard work that we need to pursue. I mean, we don't have a choice until such time as the awareness of the profession, the awareness of education, the awareness of mathematics in particular, which is what we're really driving hard. Because with that background, students, it's amazing what they can do.
You talked to someone like Mark Barnes, who was Jack and Marie's deputy at Standard Merchant Corporate Bank, Corporate Merchant Bank, SCMB. He now runs Purple Capital. He owns exclusive books. He's a very erudite man today. He grew up in a disadvantaged community. He was a poor guy who was adopted in Belfast and in Mpumalanga, hardly the epicenter of the world. But he was spotted by a teacher when he was 6 or 7. The teacher said, "You're good at maths."
Yes.
And he was fast-tracked on the maths path. Spot more Mark Barneses at the age of 6 and 7 to get them through our systems and to get them into your system.
Precisely, and that's why we'll never tire. I mean, we've got amazing programs that are constantly dealing with schools to do just that. Only if we can get more and more of the corporates to really contribute towards the fund, we can have more wings and more capability and ability to access even greater.
Is government involved, or has it handed you the responsibility and said, look here, Terence, you run SAICA. I tell you what, you suck money out of the corporates. You fund the transformation of the accounting sector. Has government come into this party at all? Is government helping facilitate the bright youngsters and putting them through the system?
In a big way, actually, because I mean, half of the transformation program that is run by SAICA is funded by government. And therefore, it's something that government has really shown commitment. The bulk of the funding of I will call them rural universities, outlying areas, are funded by government in terms of getting their accounting departments and accounting programs to. Are
they getting bang for their buck? Are we getting the result? Is there, if you were the financial director of the South African accounting profession, would you say the returns are adequate for the investment that's been put into it right now?
The pass rates at those universities, you'll be amazed, Bruce.
The pass rates are good. Is the profession improving as a result?
It will improve as a result.
Terence Nombembe, we must leave it there. He is the former Auditor General. He is now Chief Executive of SAICA, the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, doing amazing things to improve the standard of South Africa's chartered accounting industry. Terence Nombembe. Thank you for watching. There'll be more tonight, tomorrow. Until then, good night and goodbye.